Surprise, surprise! It's Wednesday. There's been technical difficulties, and your host has abandoned you.
Uh-oh.
Not really, actually. She's just doing important family stuff of some kind. So you guys are stuck with me.
Yay!
You can hear now. I'm gonna bring on so we've got a guest tonight, Tom Rasch, creator of Black Alpha.
Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing?
That's good. You can probably bring your mic down some still. It's
okay.
It's a little hot. It's hot. Super hot.
Hopefully that made a difference.
So far, we're doing pretty good.
Okay.
I'm just checking. Yeah, we're good. So I have no idea how many sound effects are. Let me check something here. Okay. I'm not hearing a sound effect.
I mean, I guess, Jack, you and I could try together to sort of vocalize and mimic the sounds if you want.
Me.
There we go.
There you go. But yeah, so Kat is MIA today. She will return next week. Maybe next week. I don't remember. It's been a complicated schedule this month. But how are you doing, man? I haven't seen you face to face in a while.
It has been a while. I'm doing very, very good. I'm down here in my kind of inner sanctum right now, so the lighting is probably a little suspect, but this is where I can gain some privacy for the moment. So this will have to do. I'll pretend it's Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum.
Coming to us from a non-disclosed location.
Yep.
Very spooky. Spookyville.
There we go.
Spooky. Let's see here. I keep hitting these things to see if I can figure out why the sound effects don't come through today, but I got notifications. Who is that? Oh, it's a like. So it's been a busy 24 hours, 2 days, 48 hours.
It quite hasn't been 2 days. I'd say it's been just probably not even quite a day and a half, honestly. But yes, but very busy, very exciting for sure.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, let's see here.
There we go. Now we're talking.
That
was good. That was good, by the way, Jack.
We launched the Kickstarter officially for Black Alpha. I will say one of the nice things about Black Alpha is if you type in Black Alpha on Kickstarter, there's like no other Black Alphas. There's nothing even close to Black Alpha. It's like the only thing that comes up, which sounds petty, but a lot of times, like when Kickstarters are going, you'll type in the first word and there's like 1,000 things, and you type in the second word and there's like 500 things and you're like, dear God, and you have to get super specific. So that's one way you guys can find it. Obviously, I'm also going to share the link in the comments section. I'm also trying to share our current live stream to a few choice, very exclusive groups and pages. Let's see here. And we can kick off the 30-second trailer here in a second. Do you want to set up? I'm going to do this. What's the Johnny Carson style? Do you want to set up this clip?
Can I be Ed McMahon?
Yeah.
Yes. Isn't that kind of what he always did all the time?
Yes, you are.
Right,
correct.
you are, sir. Yeah. Okay. So we'll pretend that I'm Ryan Reynolds, even though I look more like Rob Zombie, and and that's with the surreal atmosphere of how I look at the background behind me, that kind of fits anyway. I'll pretend like I'm one of the actors setting up the clip. So anyone not in the know, we just launched the official Kickstarter for Black Alpha. This has been literally years in the making, and I'm very excited to be partnering up with Jack and John and everybody at WTF Comics. But Black Alpha is a creation of mine when I was 11 years old and has been living in my brain for literally decades. And it's my love letter to just about everything I've loved growing up, science fiction and superheroes and spaceships and fun space opera storylines and the hero's journey. So we can talk about a little more, I think, after we see the trailer if you want, Jack, and I can kind of fill in a little more exposition, if you will.
Very official.
I am Tom, and this is Black Alpha.
Sweetness.
Cool.
See if I can slap this up there. There we go. It won't let me remove the volume though, I don't think. I was gonna play it back without volume while we chatted, but they're always changing things here on V Live. So it's part of why we have technical difficulties. And it just seems like Kat always makes the joke that it's like it's Wednesday, so we must have technical difficulties. And it does seem like the same phone or computer or a laptop or a mic or whatever works all week long until it's time to do the breakdown on a Wednesday. And then all of a sudden everything breaks. I should knock on wood. I have nothing made of real wood around me though. So this is, oh my God, this is the only thing I have.
There we go. Yes. Well, I would imagine, yeah, as long as you guys have done this program, technical difficulties are just kind of how you roll, right? Like you said, the show must go on. So here we are.
Right. That is right. So, oh wait, did I get that sucker in there? Oh, maybe I did. Let's see this one. This one might actually, there we go. Look at that. It's like I have you on the show twice. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Your doppelganger's here. We can have you interview you. That would be incredible.
The transporter double that split into two sides, the one good and the one evil, like on Star Trek. So
the Bizarro
that one too.
Tom.
There we go. The evil twin.
So I mean, it's one of those things that's like it's hard when you're inside looking out. You know what I mean? To really appreciate that some of our viewers and that people in general don't have the same perspective. You know what I mean? So like earlier, I heard you say you're like, oh, it's been years in the making. But just real quick, give us like some perspective on truly when you say years, like what do you really mean?
Well, we can approach that on two different, I guess, threads or trains, or is it train of thought, somewhere along that line of, as I kind of alluded to, literally in the makings, because it's a creation, the very first original character I came up with in grade school. And that was a result of really enjoying drawing for a number of years. But as I got into, later years in grade school, I started doodling my own characters, and I just kind of started drawing this one character. And I will say this, anyone who's ever followed my Facebook page will know this, or some. I pretty much ripped off the design of the old X-Men costumes, the classic gold and blue and the Buccaneer boots. But he instead, I made him black. His color scheme was black, gold, and white. So I've kept that intact with the modern version, but the prime core concept was always there. I wanted a superhero that had adventures in space. And because I loved the Batmobile and also the Enterprise, I wanted both to represent that. So that the initial core concept, that's what it's always been. And it's been floating in my head for years. And I wanted to do a comic. I wanted to do a cartoon. And then roughly close to a decade ago, well, more along the lines of 7 years ago, I ended up kind of taking the plunge to do my own comic. And that comic was, had an article about it in USA Today. And, and that was produced and created. But a lot of real life got in the way. And I wasn't able to, basically, I started on issue 2, wasn't able to complete issue 2. I'm also a new father. So, of course, that definitely changes the lifestyle for how you do time management. And so partnering up with the wonderful folks at WTF, we came up with the idea of doing a crowdfunder to assemble a team, kind of like Nick Fury talked about in the Avengers. We're going to assemble a team and we're going to do great things and to basically help finish issue 2. And the crowdfunder right now is about, funding that issue 2, but we're hoping to go definitely above and beyond. for stretch goals to basically possibly get issue 3 and 4 done. Hopefully that's about as clear as I can kind of make it at the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of thinking just in terms of like, you came up with it as a child, and the whole progression, that whole idea of like something that you came up with when you were 11, right? Is it you could flash forward from there. Like you came up with when you were 11, okay, but then also it's like you flash forward to what 6 years ago was when you got like more of the press.
Yes.
Around it, and then so you had 6 years ago. So even if you were like, okay, well, let's ignore the fact that you came up with it when you were 11, but 6 years ago, at the very least, there was press around it, and then now we're looking at it's 6 years later, and it's like it's finally happening. That kind of long haul that I think a lot of people maybe outside looking in take for granted, that kind of like it isn't something that happened overnight. It's not like we it's not even like when you met me that we started to be friends and talk about doing the campaign, that suddenly that was the launch point. I had a visitor for a half second.
I will say this, it's something that's been mentioned to me through a number of years, and I do appreciate the support and kind remarks that and I get a little embarrassed when I've heard this, and I'll say it, but people, because I promote so heavily on something like Facebook, people have said I was an inspiration because they'll let me know I used to do that stuff when I was a kid. I'd come up with my own characters, or I had a dream, or I had a goal, but then either a number of things happened, then I lost interest or I forgot about it. And so they say, honestly, I don't know if I've ever met anyone like you that has had something he's wanted to do for literally for decades and didn't give up on it.
Right.
And, and I would have to say that, yeah, like for me, the emotional resonance is always going to be a little probably skewed because, to the public eye or to most people, like even like you mentioned, yours and mine's connection, it's still fairly new. But for me, the emotional weight and the emotional investment is very, very deep because it is, literally decades of caring about a character and his universe and his story and the kind of stories you want to tell. And I've even said this a time or two when I was in 6th grade. I was a shy, meek, artistic child, and I would spend a lot of time during recess break at school by myself, and I would fantasize humming the music to what the theme to a Black Alpha cartoon would be like, or I would also daydream about the comic version or toys, or even what I'm doing currently, conducting myself in interviews. And like I said, as a 6th grader, so I would have been around 12 or 13, I had this vision. And I didn't really tell anybody at the time, but it's kind of interesting that the thing I love about the modern technology and the modern market is a number of things have made this possible for most people, most creative spirits. Like you can actually get your comic books done, or you can get your own toys made, or whatever the case is. And so it's like kind of like with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and superhero films, technology sort of finally caught up with the imagination of comic readers, and technology sort of caught up with my imagination of my vision for my life and my passion for storytelling and creating my own stories.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like a big key factor, I think, right? Is the fact that Kickstarter, Indiegogo have certainly played a major part in changing the elements of trying to launch your own book, of how truly accessible will it be or not be, like there was for a long time, I mean, I don't know how long, there's been people self-publishing novels, right? But those people self-publishing novels, they had to like print, they may print 100 and then try to sell them somewhere locally, and that was it. Whereas like now you have Kickstarter, you have print on demand options. I mean, like when you self-publish, there's a real opportunity now. And I forget what the numbers are, but like Kickstarter had, what was it, like 20 million or 2 billion or something crazy revenue passed through it last year alone for just independent comics, and that alone, I think, says a lot. And I was just going to throw up here that, I mean, just to see some of the detail over time that has been put into Black Alpha. I know that the Aramis itself is near and dear to your heart.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I love about being a creator, I guess, of my own characters and stories is that I definitely get to implement my particular passion and interest. And as a young boy, probably around first grade, my dad bought me my very first model. It was an AMT USS Enterprise. I had started kind of paying attention and really digesting and consuming any behind the scenes stuff on Star Trek. One of my favorite books was The Making of Star Trek. I remember kid passing that around first and second grade. It had schematics of the Enterprise, characters
Right.
made references. And so even as a young, passionate nerd, I love the idea. I love the technical backstory of stuff or the aspects. And so with the Enterprise, I had to know how large it was theoretically, how many decks are on it, how it's powered. And I'm still one of those kind of people, like same thing with Star Wars ships. And so having my own ship for my own story, I basically put the same kind of thought behind it that I do as a passionate fan. And I suppose the positive byproduct of that kind of stuff for me is that I always have these theories about certain universes that really take hold in the audience, whether or not it's Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings or Star Wars and Star Trek or the Marvel Comics universe, that there's a number of rules in place with your characters and their stories that they all kind of make sense. And if they're going to make sense for how they're built logically, and that includes whether or not it's history of a species of aliens, the ship here, how many decks it has, its
Right.
size, that hopefully the audience will also invest in the story, because all of those aspects of the storytelling components and the world building make sense, and the audience can jump on board, because then it becomes also real for the audience. And I think that's incredibly important. And one thing I've also mentioned, doing my own little theoretical studies of pop culture entertainment, that I think Star Trek, in my opinion, was the first in the last a little over half century now that really thought about those things. I think science fiction prior to that had been like, a crew has to go into space on a rocket. They're on rocket XL something, and that was it. And there was knobs. But, the Enterprise and the crew of the Enterprise all had these components in place that as a fan, you could say, well, this, they reference things that they can go back to, like the ship is powered this way. This is how big it is, and I will say this real quick too. I wear my influences on my sleeve. So when people have seen the Aramis, they'll be like, oh, it kind of reminds me of a droid starfighter from episode 1. And it kind of reminds me of one of the ships from Andromeda, the Kevin Sorbo starring series. And I'll be like, yes, love all of those. And they've been an influence. And also, I mean, there's definitely some Star Trekian philosophies in its design. But with all of that being said, the one thing that people maybe do or do not consider is the scale of the ship also kind of has to fit within the confines of the story. And so when people see the Aramis, they're like, oh, it's smaller than I thought. And I said, well, I've said I've wanted something that kind of looked like a Starfleet vessel, but has the size and attitude of the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
And so basically, Black Alpha being about Trandon and Taris and his story, at least initially, he wanted to become a guardsman, these almost mythical folk heroes of the star system that he grew up in, or star systems. And that's something he's wanted to be as a child. And they were pretty legendary. But through the years, from his young childhood up until his teens, a number of things have happened that the guardsman ranks have died off. And so he personally feels let down by these heroes, the heroes he really wanted to be as a young boy. And his story is obviously something I can relate to, because most things that I wanted to do have been around since I was a young child. And I've sort of had to face my own, I guess, dragons to slay, or things to get through, the hero's journey to sort of like figure out a way to navigate to continue to have those goals. And that's really what Trandon's story about. But, he wanted to be these guardsmen, and the guardsmen are basically like the Green Lanterns, the Jedi Knights, a galactic patrol. And I tell people that's not supposed to be the unique aspect of the story. It's been done a number of times. It's my version of, if you were in a different sci-fi setting that was different than our own, and you actually had the capability to become a superhero-esque type character, but theirs is based upon these suits, which kind of grants them superpowers, that's how in his world he would be able to do that. Probably not much different than a child here on Earth when you say, what do you want to be? And they say a fireman or a policeman. Well, in his world, the guardsman would be probably top of the list. And but the guardsmen, go on these deep space missions, and they're there to basically protect the people of the realm, stop any crime and violence. And at one time, because the ship is probably 50 or 60 years old, they would be sent in more deep space missions. And so a guardsman, or if there were a couple of guardsmen on the ship, had to kind of plan out and being in these different sectors of space for a certain amount of time that would require these ships to be the size to be an apartment, science lab, and also wheels. And also, if they came across a small craft that, had like survivors, sort of almost like a Coast Guard boat that saves people, a small people from a wreckage. So anyway, that's the idea behind the ship somewhat. And also,
you can kind of see that like apartment. I was gonna say, you can kind of see like in this one, the sort of idea of the apartment layout, and that you have a sleeping, primary cabin area, the science medical bay, the guest cabin with some bunks in case you do pick up some stragglers, a training bay, which I had to, there's something else I want to get to here in a second, but I wanted to ask, I just saw that training bay. Is, when you think of the training bay, is it like the danger room or a holodeck?
Yeah, I would say more holodeck based, because some of the feedback I've gotten with the people who've actually seen these schematics is they're like, well, that training bay looks kind of small. And I said, and yeah, that's kind of concept wise, it would be more like it's a space, and there might be a little corner of it that actually has physical stuff you can do. But I would imagine a lot of it is more, it's more along the lines of like a bit of a mental training program too, because there's a mentor story. His Obi-Wan Kenobi is the guardsman who actually had the ship and the cell suit. Cell suit stands for Cyber Enhanced Link. It's an augmenting energy suit. I would equate it to probably like Iron Man's armor. Like Iron Man can do a number of things. This one, it's more kind of tends to be a little more organic, and it's a reflection of the pilot, as I call it. But basically, the guy or the older guardsman who perished, this was his suit and his ship. And the way that I have it set up in the mythology is that the suit especially is tied into the DNA of the pilot. So not anyone else can just come along and put on this augmenting suit and use it. The previous pilot or owner has to be deceased, unfortunately. So that's what happens to Trandon. He comes across a deceased guardsman and his ship as it's been crashed, and the suit is left behind, that he uses these to follow the mythology of the superhero. He loses his family, basically becomes an orphan. And, so there's a little bit of that drive like a Bruce Wayne. His family's taken away. But Trandon also has a bit of the DNA of Peter Parker, that when he has these gifts, so to speak, to do good, he initially uses it for something more selfish, thinking, well, I'm going to use this to sort of get back at the people I feel are responsible for the loss of my family. And that's kind of a bit of that everyman Peter Parker, where, he's not going to always make the right choices at the beginning. He's very young. I've said in the story, I imagine him to be probably anywhere between 18 to 21 years old. So he's pretty unseasoned, he's pretty green, but that's what I want to make compelling about his story, is that, we'll get to see him grow through his own experiences, and hopefully we can relate to them, everything that he goes through, and also the other characters as well.
So we have a direct question here. Let me grab this for you. Tom, would the link to the suit be similar to the armor and X-Zero Man of War, or Exo Man of War?
Yeah, it's like I said, the augmenting suit too is also, once again by itself, not a unique concept. It's almost like, I suppose I could say it's not as much of a plot device, but it kind of is, that it's sort of the thing that gives Trandon his ability to be a superhero-esque type character. I mean, the one thing that I've tried to say, that there's certain elements like the guardsman program themselves, especially the older, more classic version of the program, is that they wanted people who were very focused, not unlike probably the Shaolin monks mixed in with the Marines, I guess, that the suit is a reflection of the pilot. So the pilot has to be in top physical peak condition, because the suit will get tired if he gets tired. And part of that too is to also throw in a potential drama, like, if you have someone and they've replenished, or their energy is not replenished, completely drained, I mean, they're going to have to come up with creative solutions how to get out of a tight spot.
Well, it's avoiding the Superman problem, right? That if someone's just perfect, then how interesting can it be?
Well, and even that, like, I've said, well, and speaking of Superman, I know some of my nerd friends have had the debate about the concept of Superman's numerous powers and the heat vision and his ability to fly doesn't make sense to them. And I can get that. It almost more seems like psionic, like how does Superman, will himself to fly, and also the heat vision, like, because I can see everything else is more like us, right? He can, he's faster, he's stronger. And that's actually an idea that I put into these cell suits is that, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, originally, like, he couldn't fly. The idea was originally that he could just leap a building in a single bound, which is more realistic, right? It's like suddenly he's like ant powered. He's little, he's like a tick, he can jump. But yeah, the heat vision and the flying, I guess, I honestly, now that you bring it up, I hadn't really put much thought into it. I guess I just always assumed the flying was like, had something to do with him basically sort of being lightweight, even though he's stronger, but there's other things where they clearly make him heavy. So I don't know.
Yeah, I always kind of chalked it up to ultimate suspension of disbelief. We're used to that. We just accept it. But I do have those friends that love to kind of base their opinions on certain characters of the silliness, right? And so one of my friends had mentioned this some years ago, and that partially probably influenced my idea that the cell suit is reflective of a humanoid. So the cell suit will make you stronger, will make you faster. You can leap. I would, and the thing is, I didn't want to make it too powerful. I wanted to, kind of dial it back, even to the level of like Spider-Man's abilities, although his are inconsistent. He can lift up a bus, but that doesn't kind of go hand in hand with the other things he seems to be able to do and not do. But anyway, like you can probably leap about 2 to 3 stories in the air with the cell suit, but you can't fly because they can't fly, just like us humanoids. They can't, So I decided the solution to that is that the armor has some morphing memory technology, and there's these big shoulder pads that basically turn into glider wings when they rappel off of a ship. Like if they don't want to bring the ship in for a close landing, then they basically rappel off the ship, we'll say 100 feet off the ground, and that glides them to the ground like Batman's cape. Gotcha. And also like the, that's supposed to be the sort of the biomechanical element of the suit, is that it's reflective of the pilot's abilities. But the headgear gives like thermographic readings and HUD display. Basically any kind of intel that they need comes from that aspect of it. And once again, circling back around to the original concept of at one time the Guardsman program was created because, like, imagine if you lived in a star system where superpowered aliens, people with great mental abilities are a norm, and us humanoids, would have to sort of level the playing field to survive and to protect ourselves. And so that's how this Guardsman program was created. And interestingly enough, I'll throw in a little nerdy tidbit that I hoped we get to in the comic, is that Thurin Dre is the name of the character that was the classic older Guardsman who perished.
What's his name?
Thurin Dre, THURONDREY. Yeah, I come up with the kind of nerdiest names. There's a little bit of a mention here that the people of the Caradian systems are aware of Earth. They call us their Terran cousins. Got a little bit of that from Battlestar Galactica. The fact that Star Wars Earth is never mentioned, but in Galactica, they were supposed to be the 12 colonies of man, and Earth was the mythical 13th colony. Well, in our story, they're aware of Earth, and they refer to us as their Terran cousins. And so there's stories that have traveled through the stars. And Thurin Dre kind of has an interesting parallel to Trandon, the current Black Alpha, that he grew up wanting to be a superhero, but he's actually inspired by the stories that he's heard of Earth. So there's a brief mention of a sun god from another star, or an aristocratic creature of the night, and so that they're kind of alluding to, without saying it, Superman and Batman and the like, Marvel and DC. And so he himself is almost kind of a fanboy of Earth mythology and culture. And he sort of applied that to his career as a guardsman.
Gotcha. I had to look this up real quick so our Earth isn't even listed here.
No, those are the 12. And once again, the 12 colonies of man, Battlestar Galactica. Well, I have my 12 star systems of Caradia.
Gotcha.
But that's one of the things that I sort of wanted to separate this from, say, something like Green Lantern too, is that, Green Lantern, there's a number of Green Lanterns, and then they have the ring as kind of their sort of their talisman, right? It's the cell suits for the Guardsmen. The Jedi Knights have the Force and the lightsabers, and the rings for the Green Lanterns. That Green Lantern is still tend to be known as Hal Jordan's story, and he's an Earth-based, I wanted mine to be the reverse, where it's a lead character from another star system that is vaguely aware of Earth, you know. And also the other thing too, I pointed out to people were Green Lanterns running around kind of in their traditional tights, and they use their power rings to create constructs, and also just an energy field that they can travel and fly through the stars like Superman. Not my story. Once again, the characters can't fly, and they require ships and transportation to get them
Right.
from point A to point B.
Well, and you had talked a little bit too at one point about the idea of Batman with Iron Man tech, and the thing that obviously crosses over in there, that those are both normal-ish human beings, right? They're not Superman. They don't have powers. They require something to make them capable, whether it's the Iron Man suit or Batman's toys. You know, they're both very smart. They're both maybe very capable, but you know, they aren't just like bestowed with, you know, suddenly they have the ability to do magic, you know.
Well, and I would guess as a young kid, I mean, Spider-Man was the very first one I was exposed to right around the same time as the Adam West Batman. But I knew as I got a little bit older, I was attracted to what I didn't know at the time was the Gadgeteer heroes. And I do think that I like the kind of the subtext that it is a normal Joe like any of us. And through
Right.
will and a number of things, it makes himself extraordinary. But underneath it all, it's still a normal human being. And that's why, like in Trandon's story, he's got the drive of Bruce Wayne and some of the gadgetry and also the tech of Tony Stark. But his backstory is he comes from, you know, a pretty rundown star system. So he comes from the rough side of the tracks. And that's supposed to be a bit of his Peter Parker DNA, is that he didn't grow up as a wealthy billionaire, but he has the same drive as, say, Bruce Wayne. He's had his own tragedy and ends up
Right.
getting these tools and training to basically achieve, you know, his mission and goals. So,
Yeah. So real quick, I want to shift gears for a second here. And we got to get back to the Kickstarter, but
yes.
before we do, I want to ask about how this happened. So just to give people some background, you know, if you look, what's this character's name? I just blanked. I had his name in my head a second ago. The character on Big Bang Theory that we're looking at here. If you look, you know, just past his shoulder there, Rasch, you'll see that there's a Black Alpha figure in the background there, just chilling on his shelf. I assume that's like in their apartment or something. And then this is the comic book shop where actually this comic book shop shows up a lot in the show. You know, a lot. Oh yeah, so we got another Big Bang Theory watcher. Yeah, Raj. So, but this comic book shop comes up a lot, and these posters, they're like always there, right? Like, I mean, once they were put up, I don't think they ever redressed the comic shop. So there's sort of this like subliminal messaging going on, and then you got picked up on USA Today. But so how did this all come about? Like, how did this happen?
Yeah, they were. I mean, they might have shifted the set some, but yeah, they were there for quite a number of episodes.
Yeah. So how did this come about? I don't know. It sounds like you're breaking up some, so I don't know if I'm losing you, but I see you talking. Uh-oh. Can you hear me? Oh no.
The magic
No.
of social networking on,
You came
you
back.
know, platforms like Facebook, the internet.
You're back. I can hear you. There's a
Um,
lag, but I can hear you.
I've had a number of great connections and opportunities. I mean, I made a promise years ago when I joined stuff like Facebook that my page was going to be about sharing nerd passion,
Yeah.
but it honestly was about
Uh-oh.
promotion. Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
How am I sounding
You're
now?
just cutting in and out a little bit.
Can you hear me?
When I hear you, I can hear you clearly. I just have no idea if you're hearing me.
I can hear you.
Oh, no. Yeah, you can hear me? Hello? So you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Long delay. There's definitely some kind of delay. Well, we seem to be losing a connection. So real quick, I just want to make sure people know that the campaign. So the campaign's only been going on for 2 days,
Okay,
but in the
maybe
first
the mic was
24
moving,
hours,
or
about
the jack here.
maybe.
Can you hear me okay now?
I don't know if you can hear me, but I was just updating them on the Kickstarter.
Okay.
So yeah, this happened really fast, guys. We raised like $2,200
Okay.
super fast. If you go to Kickstarter and just check out Black Alpha, it's the only Black Alpha. So you'll see. I mean, there's original artwork, kind of giving you an idea of how it got made. There's some sneak peek.
Where were we?
Look at the book, and obviously there's a lot of background information. There's some really awesome. Let me get down here real quick for you guys. Oh man, there's so much stuff. There's obviously some really awesome rewards. Oh wow. Yeah, sorry, I got distracted by the rewards. And let's see here. We got pop figures, we've got posters, we've got t-shirts, we've got buttons, we've got let's see here. There's a bunch of variants. So I personally, I have a favorite. I'm not trying to be biased. There's trading cards. I'm not trying to be biased here. There's a poster, but you can get sketches. But we have the A cover, and let me see here. Let me try to back this up for you guys. So maybe you can see a little better. No, let's go some more. Not non-enhance. What's the opposite of enhance? Scale back. So we've got, this is the A cover, which I think is pretty wicked.
I'm not sure.
And
what
this is the
that would be.
This would be the Rash variant. He keeps coming back. There he is. Let's see here. And wait, I think did we lose him? Okay. So I will try to bring Tom back here in a second. But so this is the Jack Kirby style variant, which comes like already kind of worn looking and everything. And this is the exclusive Virgin cover, which where I think we're really limiting. Like you can get it in one tier, but we limited it to like 50. And then obviously in some of the other tiers, you can choose to get this cover. But once we do this, like once we print this for Kickstarter, it will never be printed again as a cover. Like there might be a poster someday, but it is specific. There's pop figures. There's a lunchbox. There's an old school lunchbox, metal lunchbox. It's freaking awesome. There's t-shirts. We even have these awesome cases that you can get. Cheers. And I can't, it's one of those things like I want to back it and I'm helping work on it. So when you guys get a chance, the link is in the description or in the comments. And obviously it's all over the internet, or you can just search Black Alpha on Kickstarter. And Tom, can you hear me right now? It looks like your screen froze. Hello. Tom. Let's see here. I'm gonna try to message him. Let's see here, maybe if he refreshes, let's see if we can do that. And then we'll wrap things up. But there's those pages. I just wanted to get a quick look at these again. So this just gives you guys an idea of what the art looks like inside the book. There's really good villains. I'm a villain guy. I am totally, it's Gremlins. Thank you. Diminish is the opposite of enhance. Wow, it's like all of a sudden all these messages are coming through. Thank you. Okay, I want to give a shout out to Viet, the guy who creates all the pop figures you see on our Kickstarters, on whatever. You know what? Hold on. I am going to go ahead and stop because he deserves it. And I'm going to paste at least his Facebook into the comment section. He does all custom pop figures for a lot of Kickstarters. Basically, if you want a good pop figure, you go see this guy. It is now in the comments. But yeah, like pop figures are awesome, and who doesn't want to see a pop figure of their own comic? I think Tom even said he was going to try to grab one or get his hands on one. He is refreshing. Let's see if we can get him back in here. And this even might give you guys this is sort of a nice overview, if you will. Yeah, thank you. Like, a story is kind of only as good as its villains, right? Like, is that just me? I always, sometimes I even catch myself rooting for the villain, which might be a sign of something else. But I can't help myself. I'm all about the villains. Ooh, let me bring this down for you. So, there's so much stuff on the screen. It's craziness. So when you guys get a chance, check out Black Alpha. Definitely share it and promote it and back it. He's trying one more time. Hold on. Come back in. This is the way it works, you know, because it's based on multiple internets, his, mine, and the outgoing. Yeah, anti-heroes, you kind of like, they're almost like, I'm not gonna lie, I love anti-heroes, but I just root for the villains. I collect villain stuff. That probably says something about my state of mind. But like Juggernaut, Sabretooth, even Mr. Sinister, who I always think of as just Sinister, and people that don't like it, whatever, they don't like his name, I don't care. I think Sinister's awesome. I like villains. I actually didn't care at all about Thanos before the movies. We just totally serious, other than his existence in the Silver Surfer world. But I'm all about the villains, man. Bane is one of my favorite villains. Let's see here. Wait, Tom is ready. I'm gonna bring Tom back in for you guys real quick. 1 second. Clickety click. Wait, I hear him. I hear you. Do you hear me? You're back in 3, 2. Hooray! Technology.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, I was just telling everybody basically to go get their butts over to the Kickstarter. But yeah, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to stop in and
Yeah,
give
no,
us like
the whole time
deets.
I could see you and I could hear you.
Oh yeah, like sometimes it just has to do with how quickly, I guess, the internet's coming in to be live, putting the screens together and then going back out. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the campaign's doing really well. You know, we're at 667, which means somebody didn't like that it was at $2,666, and they donated $1 to break the mark of the beast, I'm guessing. But that's fine. That's kind of awesome. But I am gonna wrap up the show. Tom, can you hear me? If you want to say any final farewells and goodbyes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we're definitely on a delay.
Yes.
At least on what I'm hearing.
Yeah, just once again, tell everyone to check out the Kickstarter, and we appreciate the support we've had so far, and we definitely want to, if we can, move into stretch goal territory. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. There's just a long delay on this end. Technology.
Can you hear me? Yeah, because now you're lagging on my end.
All right. Well, guys,
Okay.
I want to thank Tom for joining us. I am going to exit this evening. Kat will be back hopefully soon. For what it's worth, I don't know that the technology will work any better or worse. Might be worse. You never know. Sometimes she makes things worse. Sometimes she makes things better. But I thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember to check out issueswithshow.com for updates on the breakdown, on our other TV shows, on our other comic book content. And of course, check out WTFcomicbooks.com, where you can see awesome projects like Black Alpha. You guys have a good night and have a great week. I don't dance. I was expecting the cat style dance. Too bad.